Well, I was not expecting to make another vid like this so soon, but the shenanigans just do not stop. So we're just going to dive into the story that will inevitably be front and center in the thumbnail. So Coca-Cola, the beverage company, actually had to release a press statement on Thursday because among the many things that they own the brand Fairlife, which makes milk, protein shakes, a bunch of dairy products, stuff like that. And in their press statement, Coke had to say, hey y'all, sorry to disappoint, but that milk that we've been making, we're gonna have to stop production of that in the US for the time being. Now, if you have a bottle of Fairlife in your house, do not be alarmed. It is completely safe to drink. At least I'm assuming. I have no idea what has been done to that bottle after it left the factory. But no, the reason Coke has to stop making their milk is apparently a cyber attack was conducted on the Fairlife systems. So some rando was able to gain access to their network, and it was believed that they were going to try and execute a ransomware attack. So they were going to hold the freaking milk for ransom. I mean, it's also possible they were going to try and hold employee details for ransom, but it's much funnier in my head that they were going to hold the milk for ransom. Now, Coke has said, as of this moment, the full scope, nature, and impacts of the incident are not yet known. So I'm really hoping we do get some more details about this case. I would love to know who conducted this attack. You know, they really picked a heck of a company to target. I imagine Fairlife is sweating trying to get this all sorted out in a timely manner because they don't exactly have a very comfortable deadline. Now, unfortunately, we don't have much more info on this case. The rest of Coke's briefing says the breach has not affected product quality or safety, and they say while the US operations are halted, Canada, they're still going to resume as usual. Nothing has gone wrong on that side. So here's hoping the hackers don't try to go for Canada either. So our next story is completely different. Now in Indiana, there was a guy who was walking down the street and then he stumbled upon two police officers. So the guy goes up to him and says, hey, I've been stabbed. So the police were like, oh, okay, we'll look into that, but first we need to take you to a hospital. So they drive him over there, and in the process of them driving this guy to the hospital, a fire breaks out in a detached garage in a neighborhood. So the firefighters get on this case, they start driving over, and apparently the detached garage, the house it belongs to the mom of the guy that got stabbed. So with this information now we're like, is the mafia after this guy? Are they trying to intimidate him? Apparently not. What actually happened is so much weirder. So this guy, our alleged stabbing victim, I'm just gonna call him Fred as a fake name. Fred gets to the hospital, and then after a while he's like, listen guys, I have to come clean. I was not stabbed. And that fire that happened at my mom's place, it was me. And it's probably a good thing that he came clean when he did, because when the investigators went to check out the area after the fire was all taken care of, they found out that that detached garage doesn't have any electronic fixings in it, so there was nothing that could really catch fire due to faulty wiring. But now I'm wondering, does this garage not have a door? There was a lawnmower in the garage, but they said that was completely fine, nothing went wrong there. So maybe it's less of a garage that I'm thinking of and more of a shed that has become the designated lawnmower garage. But I'm going off on a tangent now. So you might be asking, oh, why did he do this? Was he just angry at his mom or something? So I'm gonna run you through the sequence of events that Fred has presented to us, and if any of y'all have any idea how this entire catastrophe kicked off, please share your ideas in the comments, because this is just absurd. So our story begins at 2 a.m. Fred walks into the garage, and with him he has a kitchen knife, which he proceeds to then use to cut his genitals off. Unfortunately, I do not have any info to state whether he was on something so he didn't feel pain or the man was just raw dogging it. But anyways, once this man finished carving his turkey, he then took his severed junk and then just placed it on the floor of the garage. He then took some gasoline that was in this garage, poured it on his genitals, and then just lit them on fire. And then after this entire thing, he decided to just walk on out until he found some police. This is all straight from Fred's mouth, by the way. This is what he said happened. Also, investigators said when they were looking at the scene, they found 4 lighters, which makes me wonder, did he only use 1 lighter and the other 3 were just there, or did he use all 4 because he really wanted to make sure he got the job done? Unfortunately, the articles do not clarify. Man, whatever possessed this guy to do this, I do not envy him having that. What do you even say to this, man? Yeah, I've heard some weird arson stories, but I feel like this one has to be pretty high on the list of the weirdest. So that's about all the details we have for this story. We're gonna move on, and I'm pretty sure this one many of y'all have already heard of. So in Kansas City, which is located in, you guessed it, Missouri, there was a World Cup watch party that was held in some sort of public green space looking thing. It looked like a park. And this necessitated the use of porta-potty, so they contracted Patriot Portable Restrooms, heck of a name for this company, I love it. And they came in, plopped their toilets in, and then when everything was all said and done, it was time for them to pick them back up and take them home. So they had a worker knocking on the doors of the toilets, making sure they were vacant, and finally, the worker got to a toilet that wasn't vacant. And so the worker said, alright dude, I see you're busy, well, I'll give you 10 minutes and then I'll come back. So the 10 minutes expired, the worker comes back and sees, okay, the guy's still not coming out. Now, fortunately, there was a police officer just nearby having a merry stroll or something. So the worker is like, hey, can you help me open this toilet? This guy's not coming out. So the two manage to break in, and then they promptly find absolutely nothing. Now this is where they're confused, because there was a guy talking to the worker through the wall of the toilet. So that's bizarre. And then they figured out what happened when, out of the darkness of the toilet bowl, a man's head pops out like a whack-a-mole. Now this is where the worker and the cop both had a few questions to ask, and luckily the man of the bowl was kind enough to give us some exposition as to how he got into this situation. So a guy from Patriot Portable Restrooms actually made a TikTok about this, and he spoke to the guy, and he claims that our toilet spelunking friend here said he was in there for 9 hours, and the reason he was submerged in the toilet water was he dropped a Mountain Dew bottle and he's trying to fish it out. Yeah, that's 100% fake. That is no way that's true. No way. And if it, by some miracle it is true, that Mountain Dew bottle is not filled with Mountain Dew. It is 100% filled with some unholy concoction. Anyways, they had to call the freaking fire department out to straight up cut this dude out with, like, I don't know, was that like an angle grinder? They eventually get him out of there. And apparently the Kansas City Star has a quote from the head of Patriot Portable Restrooms, and he's just roasting the guy because according to the president, the guy wasn't doing much to help himself out of the situation. The quote goes something like, "You're not in a 10-foot deep pool, it's a 55-gallon drum basically on its side. That's only like 2.5 feet deep. He was sitting there with his head out of the hole, put your hands up and out, the same way he got in." This dude sounds so done with the situation, and I would totally I'd be the same way if I was in his shoes. What do you mean we have to go out, cut this dude out of a freaking porta potty? We probably all have the hantavirus now. So anyways, they get him out, and they just hose him down with the hose from the fire truck, and then they just let the dude go. That's where the story ends. He just walks away. Who knows where he is now? I do not buy that this dude was in there for like 8 to 9 hours or whatever he said. If you can find the videos, this dude was not eager at all to get out. When they were trying to say, hey dude, you gotta come out, are you stuck in there? He's like, nah, I'm good, man, just leave me here, I'll be fine. Dude, it's a porta potty, it's not a hot tub. What do you mean you're fine? You are clearly not. You're the opposite of fine. Why would you ever do this? Like, actually, is this dude a cave diver and we just don't know about it? For whatever reason, he just couldn't book his annual trip to Nevada to hit up the cave called Death's Urethra, so he had to get his cave diving fix this way. And you wanna know something, Chris? This isn't even the first time something like this has happened. You can find an old local news story. They talked about this on GMM in an old episode. In Pennsylvania, some dude, he called 911. They're like, 911, what's your emergency? And he's like, hey y'all, they have a problem here. I am stuck waist deep in a porta potty. So they say, all right bro, we'll send somebody to help you out. And he's like, thank you. Oh, by the way, I should also mention I am completely freaking nude. So yeah, spoiler alert, when somewhere in this entire saga they found out that he was drinking. He's just a little bit intoxicated, just a teensy bit. And so he decided to take off all his clothes and then just like right up in that toilet bowl, just full on hanging schlong, front and rear holes wide open, exposed to whatever abominations were plopped in that tank. And when they ask him, hey, how did you get in there? He just shrugs. Like, he said, I don't know. I mean, that sounds about right for considering all the details that we have of this situation. So yeah, they did cut him out, like the guy we were talking about earlier, and he just goes on his merry way. Okay, he was charged with a couple things. One was like public drunkenness, but nothing too crazy. And actually, I don't think the Kansas City guy had any charges. Anyways, that's basically everything we have of all of these stories. So yeah, moral of the story, kids, drink and do drugs responsibly.